The human element. Commander Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of the TSS Asteria, Earth's most advanced research vessel, watching as the ship's quantum sensors painted an impossible picture of the space before them. The vessel had just emerged from its experimental fold space jump into what should have been empty space in the Carina Nebula. Instead, they found themselves witnessing what appeared to be a graveyard of starships, frozen in the midst of battle. "Dr. Patel," she called out, her voice steady despite the tension coursing through her body. "Are you seeing these readings?" Arun Patel, the ship's lead physicist, was already immersed in the holographic data streaming from the ship's sensors. His dark eyes reflected the cascade of numbers and spectral analyses floating before him. "Commander, these energy signatures, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. The entire region is saturated with what appears to be dark matter, but it's stable. That should be impossible." The Asteria had been designed to test humanity's first successful dark matter containment system, a breakthrough that had taken decades of international cooperation to achieve. But what they were seeing now made their achievements seem primitive by comparison. "Multiple objects approaching, Commander," Lieutenant Sarah Chen announced from her station at Tactical. "Two distinct energy signatures, closing fast from opposing vectors." Before Santos could respond, the space around them seemed to twist. Two fleets of vessels materialized from what looked like tears in the fabric of reality itself. To their port side, ships that seemed to be crafted from living crystal, their surfaces refracting starlight in impossible patterns. To starboard, vessels that appeared to be formed from condensed darkness itself, their hulls absorbing all light that touched them. "We're being hailed," Chen reported, her fingers dancing across her console. "Both fleets, simultaneously." Santos straightened her uniform. On screen, two holographic projections materialized before the bridge crew. On the left, a being that appeared to be composed of geometric crystal formations arranged in a vaguely humanoid shape, light dancing through its translucent form. On the right, a figure that seemed to be carved from living shadow, with points of intense light where eyes might be. "Unknown vessel," the crystal being spoke, its voice resonating like wind through crystal caves. "I am High Archon Celestia of the Luminant Conclave. You have entered a war zone that has persisted for 500,000 of your years. Withdraw immediately." "This sector falls under the dominion of the Void Hegemony," the shadow figure countered, its voice somehow both deep and hollow. "I am Sovereign Eclipse. Your presence here is a violation of our space. Leave or be destroyed." Santos felt the weight of history pressing down upon her. Humanity's first contact with not one, but two advanced alien civilizations, and they were caught in the middle of their war. But something about the situation nagged at her tactical training. "Dr. Patel," she whispered, "why aren't they firing on each other?" The physicist was still studying his readings, his expression growing more perplexed by the moment. "Commander, the dark matter saturation. It's creating some kind of temporal distortion field. The battle we're seeing around us, it's still happening, but at an almost infinitesimal pace. 1 second here could be taking years to complete." Santos processed this information as she addressed both alien leaders. "Distinguished representatives, I am Commander Elena Santos of the Terran science ship Asteria. We are a peaceful research vessel from Earth. Perhaps we can assist in resolving this situation." Both alien leaders reacted with what appeared to be surprise, though it was difficult to read expressions on such alien faces. "Your species is unknown to us," Celestia stated. "What could you possibly offer that 500,000 years of warfare has not already attempted?" Dr. Patel suddenly straightened. "Commander, our dark matter containment system. The resonance patterns we use to stabilize it. I think we might actually be able to help." Santos nodded slightly, making a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Both of your civilizations are clearly far more advanced than ours in many ways, but sometimes a fresh perspective can see solutions that others have overlooked. Dr. Patel, please explain your theory." As Paddle began describing the principles behind Earth's dark matter containment system, based on harmonic resonance patterns derived from music theory of all things, both alien leaders grew increasingly still. The shadow figures' points of light intensified, while the crystal beings' geometric patterns began shifting in new configurations. "Impossible," Eclipse stated, but there was a note of uncertainty in that hollow voice. "Dark matter cannot be contained through such simple means." "Yet your own sensors must confirm our readings," Santos pressed. "Our vessel is maintaining a stable dark matter containment field right now, using these very principles. We would be willing to share this technology, with both sides equally, under one condition." "And what condition would that be?" Celestia asked, crystal formations shifting rapidly. "That it be used to end this war, not to escalate it further." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Around them, the frozen battle continued its glacial progression. Dark matter weapons still firing at speeds so slow they appeared motionless. "Your offer is intriguing," Eclipse finally admitted. "But 500,000 years of warfare cannot be undone so easily." "No," Santos agreed. "But it has to start somewhere. Why not here? Why not now?" The two alien leaders began discussing among themselves in their respective languages, their ships maintaining their positions but not advancing further. Dr. Patel continued to monitor the dark matter readings, occasionally making adjustments to their containment field. "Commander," he said quietly, "I believe I can demonstrate the effectiveness of our system on a small scale. With your permission." Santos studied the tactical display, noting the positions of all vessels and the distribution of dark matter throughout the battlefield. It was a risk, but sometimes leadership meant taking calculated chances. "Proceed, Doctor." Paddle began implementing what the Asteria's crew had dubbed the harmonic cascade, a technique that used overlapping resonance patterns to gradually stabilize volatile dark matter reactions. As the effect spread from their ship, the temporal distortions in the immediate vicinity began to normalize. A small section of the frozen battle suddenly resolved itself, the weapons fire dissipating harmlessly as the dark matter stabilized. Both alien fleets watched in apparent astonishment as a patch of space that had been locked in temporal stasis for centuries returned to normal time. The demonstration was small-scale, affecting only a few cubic kilometers of space, but its implications were enormous. "How?" Celestia demanded. "Our greatest scientists have struggled with dark matter containment since before our war began. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the hardest to see," Santos replied. "Especially when you've been looking at the problem the same way for so long. We would be happy to share our insights if you're willing to listen." The alien leaders conferred again, this time for several minutes. Finally, both turned back to address the Asteria. "The Luminant Conclave is willing to discuss this further," Celestia announced. "The Void Hegemony will also participate in these discussions," Eclipse added, somewhat reluctantly. Santos allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a start. "Then let's begin." The human element. The conference room aboard the Asteria had never been designed to host alien diplomats. Dr. Arun Patel watched with fascination as the environmental systems struggled to accommodate both the crystal-based biology of the luminant representative and the dark matter composition of the void delegate. The ship's AI had been forced to create entirely new atmospheric protocols on the fly. "The fundamental principle," Paddle explained, gesturing to the holographic display floating above the conference table, "is that dark matter responds to harmonic resonance patterns in ways similar to conventional matter. We discovered this almost by accident." The luminant scientist, who had introduced herself as Harmony of Fractals, shifted her crystalline form to better observe the display. "Explain this accident." Patel smiled, remembering the day that had changed everything. "One of our researchers was listening to classical music while running containment field tests. She noticed that the dark matter stability improved when certain frequencies were playing. It seemed absurd at first, but when we investigated, music..." The void scientist, shadow of knowledge, interrupted. His form seemed to ripple with skepticism. "You're suggesting that the key to dark matter containment, which has eluded our civilizations for 500,000 years, is music?" Commander Santos, who had been quietly observing from the head of the table, leaned forward. "Not music specifically, but the mathematical principles underlying it." Dr. Patel, show them the Mozart sequence. The holographic display shifted, now showing a complex series of overlapping waveforms. "This is a mathematical representation of a piece of music written by a human composer named Mozart," Patel explained. "And this," he pulled up another display, "is the natural resonance pattern of stable dark matter." The alien scientists stared in silence as the two patterns synchronized, almost perfectly overlapping. "Impossible," Shadow of Knowledge whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. "We had been approaching dark matter containment from a perspective of force," Patel continued, "trying to impose stability through increasingly powerful containment fields. But dark matter, we discovered, responds better to harmony than to force." Lieutenant Chen, who had been quietly working at a console in the corner, suddenly spoke up. "Dr. Patel, I've finished analyzing the battle data. You need to see this." The tactical officer transferred her findings to the main display. The frozen battle surrounding them appeared in perfect detail, with energy flows and dark matter concentrations clearly marked. "The reason your weapons caused a temporal stasis effect," Chen explained, addressing both alien scientists, "is that you're both trying to force unstable dark matter reactions at the same time. The opposing forces created a deadlock, freezing time itself in the affected areas. Over the centuries," Patel added, "these temporal stasis fields have been accumulating throughout your territory. If they continue to grow," he let the implication hang in the air, "they'll eventually spread to inhabited systems." Harmony of Fractals concluded, her crystalline form dimming slightly. "We had noticed the expansion of the stasis fields, but had attributed it to enemy weapons development." "As had we," Shadow of Knowledge admitted. Santos stood, drawing everyone's attention. "We believe we can help you not only prevent this catastrophe but potentially reverse the existing stasis fields. However, it will require both of your civilizations to work together." The alien scientists exchanged looks that, despite their radically different biologies, clearly conveyed shared concern. "Our societies have been at war for longer than your species has existed," Shadow of Knowledge stated. "Cooperation may not be possible." "Then let us demonstrate on a small scale first," Patel suggested. "Lieutenant Chen has identified a relatively isolated stasis field we could use as a test case. If we're successful, it would prove the viability of our approach." The commander nodded. "And more importantly, it would show your people that cooperation is possible. Sometimes the first step is the hardest." After several minutes of discussion in their native languages, both scientists agreed to the test. As they began working out the technical details, Santos pulled Patel aside. "How long until the cascade reaches populated systems?" she asked quietly. Patel's expression was grim. "Based on Chen's calculations, maybe a year, probably less. The temporal stasis fields are growing exponentially. If we don't find a way to reverse them soon, then entire civilizations will be frozen in time," Santos finished. "No pressure, Doctor. We just need to convince two ancient enemies to trust each other, implement an untested technology on a massive scale, and do it all before time literally runs out." Patel managed a weak smile. "Just another day at the office, Commander." As they rejoined the discussion, Santos couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity, the newcomers to galactic civilization, might hold the key to saving two ancient species from their own technological advancement. Not through superior firepower or more advanced technology, but through a different way of looking at the universe. Sometimes, she reflected, watching the alien scientists cautiously beginning to collaborate, the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or weapons. It's perspective. Symphony of Peace. The test site they had chosen was a small pocket of temporal stasis, roughly 3 kilometers in diameter. Within it, the debris of two ships, one luminant, one void, hung frozen in the final moments of their destruction. Lieutenant Chen's instruments showed that the dark matter concentration here was lower than in larger stasis fields, making it an ideal testing ground. All monitoring stations are in position, Chen reported from her station aboard the Asteria. Around the stasis field, probes from all three species formed a complex geometric pattern, each ready to implement their part of the harmonic containment sequence. Patel stood at the primary control interface, his fingers hovering over the holographic controls. Beside him, Harmony of Fractals and Shadow of Knowledge monitored their own instruments, their respective crews standing by to assist. "The resonance pattern is prepped," Patel announced. "Beginning harmonic initialization in 3, 2, 1. The first wave of energy pulsed out from the Asteria's containment system, a carefully calibrated frequency derived from Earth's classical music. The alien scientists watched in fascination as their instruments registered the effect. "Dark matter stability is increasing by 4%, Shadow of Knowledge reported, his shadowy form rippling with what might have been excitement. "Luminant containment systems engaging," Harmony of Fractals added. Her crystalline structure refracted light in complex patterns as she manipulated her controls, synchronizing with human frequencies. The space around the stasis field began to shimmer as three different technologies, never designed to work together, created something entirely new. The harmonic resonance pattern established by the humans provided a foundation, while the advanced containment systems of both alien races added layers of complexity and control. "Temporal stasis field is weakening," Chen called out. "We're seeing movement within the bubble. 15% of normal time flow. 30%. Commander Santos watched the readouts with intense focus. "Status of the dark matter concentrations." "Stabilizing," Paddle replied, his fingers dancing across the controls as he made minute adjustments. "The harmonic pattern is holding. Void and luminant systems are adapting to match our frequency." Suddenly, warning signals flashed across all their displays. A stasis field flickered, and the debris within began to move erratically. "Containment fluctuation." Shadow of Knowledge's voice carried an edge of alarm. "The field is becoming unstable." "No," Harmony of Fractals corrected, her crystalline form pulsing with rapid calculations. "Look at the resonance patterns. It's not instability. The field is trying to match our frequency, but our systems are fighting each other. We need to let go." "Let go." Shadow of Knowledge's form darkened. "If we release containment now," the backlash cooled. "Trust them," Santos interrupted. "Dr. Patel, explain what she means." Patel nodded, quickly adjusting his displays. "The harmonic system doesn't force stability. It encourages it, like teaching someone to sing in harmony. If we try to force it," he let the implications hang in the air. After a moment of tense silence, both alien scientists nodded. One by one, they reduced their containment field strength, letting the human harmonic pattern take the lead. The warning signals began to fade. "Temporal flow at 60% of normal," Chen reported. "Dark matter stability increasing. 70%, 85, 93%. Before their eyes, the frozen debris began to move more naturally. The dark matter that had kept it in stasis for so long didn't disappear. Instead, it settled into a stable pattern, guided by the harmonic frequencies rather than forced into submission. "Full temporal restoration achieved," Chen announced, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Dark matter concentrations are stable and holding." The achievement resonated through all three ships. They had just demonstrated that their combined technologies could safely resolve the temporal stasis fields that had plagued this region of space for centuries. "Remarkable," Shadow of Knowledge murmured, studying the readings. "The dark matter isn't just stable, it's usable. These harmonics patterns, they could revolutionize our entire approach to energy production." "And construction," Harmony of Fractals added, her crystalline form shimmering with possibilities. "If we can maintain these resonance patterns on a larger scale, We could build things we never thought possible. Shadow of Knowledge finished, surprising everyone with his agreement. Santos allowed herself a small smile. And you could do it together. She let that thought sink in before continuing. This test proved the concept, but resolving all the stasis fields will require coordination on a massive scale. Your civilizations have the infrastructure and the power. We can provide the harmonics expertise. Together, we might be able to prevent the temporal cascade and end this war. The alien scientists exchanged looks, their ancient enmity warring with the evidence before them. There will be resistance, Harmony of Fractals warned. 500,000 years of warfare cannot be undone with a single experiment. No, Santos agreed. But every piece in history started somewhere. Why not here? Why not now? As the scientists began discussing the logistics of scaling up their solution, Patil moved closer to Santos. Think it will work? He asked quietly. Santos watched as the former enemies tentatively began planning their first joint operation. Look at them, Doctor. After 500,000 years of trying to destroy each other, they're finally creating something together. I'd say that's a pretty good start. The real work was just beginning. They would need to convince both civilizations' leadership, coordinate a massive technological effort, and overcome centuries of mistrust and hatred. But watching the alien scientists work together, their differences temporarily forgotten in the excitement of discovery, Santos felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Sometimes the universe's greatest problems didn't need bigger weapons or more advanced technology. Sometimes they just needed a new perspective, and perhaps a little human ingenuity. Breaking the cycle. The Grand Assembly Hall of the luminant capital ship Crystal Ascendant hummed with tension. 3 weeks had passed since the successful test, and representatives from all 3 species had gathered to discuss the full implementation of what they now called the Harmonic Integration Project. Commander Santos stood before the assembled delegates, her uniform pressed crisp despite the long hours of preparation. The hall itself was a marvel of crystal engineering, its surfaces designed to enhance acoustic properties, ironically perfect for their current discussion of harmonic resonance. The temporal cascade is accelerating, she began, letting the AI translator carry her words to all present. Our latest projections show we have less than 8 months before the effect reaches populated systems. The holographic display behind her showed the spread of temporal stasis fields across disputed space, a creeping web of frozen time that threatened to engulf entire civilizations. Red markers indicated the most critical areas. Your war has created over 10,000 significant temporal stasis fields, Dr. Patil continued, stepping forward. Each one is growing, merging with others, creating a cascade effect that will eventually trap both your civilizations in endless moments of frozen time. A void elder rose, his dark form rippling with skepticism. The void hegemony has survived far worse threats. Perhaps this is simply another luminant deception. Deception. A luminant Archon's crystalline form flashed with indignation. It was your weapons that. Enough. Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the growing argument. All eyes turned to the tactical officer as she manipulated the holographic display. Look at these readings. Really look at them. This isn't about blame anymore. It's about survival. The display zoomed in on a recently formed stasis field, showing its growth rate in real time. The data was undeniable. The temporal effects were expanding exponentially. We've demonstrated that the harmonic integration works, Santos pressed. But implementing it on this scale will require both your civilizations working together. The alternative is mutual extinction. Shadow of Knowledge moved to the center of the hall, his dark form commanding attention. I have studied the human harmonic principles extensively. Their approach is elegant in its simplicity, but the power requirements for full implementation would be enormous. The luminant conclave could provide the necessary energy, Harmony of Fractals offered, surprising many. Our stellar harvesting networks could be adapted to generate the initial resonance fields, and our dark matter arrays could maintain them. Shadow of Knowledge added thoughtfully. If we reconfigured them from weapons to harmonic generators, The hall erupted in overlapping discussions, translations flying back and forth as centuries of ingrained hostility warred with the pressing need for cooperation. Santos watched the exchanges with careful attention, noting the shifting alliances and growing factions among both species. A senior Void commander rose, his form barely containing his anger. "This is absurd. We cannot simply dismantle our defensive networks on the word of a primitive species and their untested theories." "Untested." Patel stepped forward, his voice steady. "We've proven the concept works. What we haven't proven is whether your civilizations are capable of choosing survival over ancient hatreds." The words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Santos held her breath, watching the reactions ripple through the assembly. This was the moment everything could fall apart or come together. Finally, High Archon Celestia herself emerged from the Luminant delegation. Her crystalline form towered over the others, refracting light in complex patterns that seemed to fill the hall. "For 500,000 years," she began, her translated voice resonating through the chamber, "we have fought the Void hegemony. We have called them monsters, abominations, destroyers of light, and they have called us similar names. We have both committed atrocities in the name of victory." She paused, her form shifting to face the Void delegation. "But these humans, these newcomers to the galaxy, have shown us something remarkable. Not just a solution to our current crisis, but a fundamental truth we had forgotten, that harmony is stronger than discord." Sovereign Eclipse emerged from the Void delegation, moving to face Celestia. For a long moment, the leaders of the ancient enemies regarded each other in silence. "The Void hegemony," Eclipse finally spoke, "agrees to participate in the Harmonic Integration Project. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. These humans have shown us that sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to change course." The tension in the hall began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious optimism. As the delegates broke into smaller groups to discuss implementation details, Santos found herself approached by both alien leaders. "Your species," Celestia observed, "has achieved something remarkable. Not through force of arms or technological superiority, but through understanding." "Understanding," Eclipse agreed, "and the courage to show ancient enemies a new way forward." Santos smiled diplomatically. "Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see past old assumptions. But the real work is just beginning. We have less than 8 months to implement the largest cooperative engineering project in galactic history." "And if we succeed?" Celestia asked. "When we succeed," Santos corrected gently, "you'll have more than just stable dark matter and freed temporal fields. You'll have proof that cooperation is possible. What you build from there, that's up to you." As the meeting continued into the night, plans taking shape for the massive undertaking ahead, Santos watched the former enemies working together with growing confidence. Humanity had given them the keys to salvation, but they were the ones choosing to use them. Legacy of Harmony. 7 months later, Commander Santos stood on the observation deck of the Asteria, watching as history unfolded before her. The vast network of harmonic resonance generators stretched across space like a gleaming web, luminant crystal technology merging seamlessly with void dark matter arrays. At strategic points throughout the network, human-designed harmonic cores pulsed with energy, coordinating the massive effort to stabilize the temporal cascade. Final synchronization complete, Lieutenant Chen reported from her station. All sectors reporting ready. Dr. Patel's fingers danced across his console, making final adjustments to the harmonic frequencies. Dark matter stability at optimal levels. Harmonic resonance patterns are holding steady across all nodes. High Archon Celestia and Sovereign Eclipse are standing by. Chen added, "They're awaiting your signal to begin." Santos took a deep breath, remembering the countless hours of preparation, the near disasters, and the moments of breakthrough that had brought them to this point. "Send the signal. Let's finish this." Across the vast expanse of space, thousands of generators activated simultaneously. The harmonics that humans had discovered in their music, refined through science, and shared with their alien allies, began to ripple through space itself. Where there had been chaos, order emerged. Where there had been discord, harmony arose. The effect was beautiful and terrifying to witness. Temporal stasis fields that had persisted for centuries began to dissolve, their dark matter content not destroyed but transformed, guided into stable patterns by the harmonic network. Ships and debris frozen in ancient battles were finally allowed to complete their final moments, their crews long gone but their stories finally reaching conclusion. Field dissolution at 20%, Chen reported, her voice tight with concentration. 30, 40. A warning klaxon suddenly blared. Power fluctuation in Sector 7. Patil called out. The harmonic pattern is destabilizing. Santos watched as red warning indicators spread across their tactical display. What's happening? The dissolution rate is creating feedback in the network, Patil explained quickly. The harmonics aren't adapting fast enough to the changing conditions. Before Santos could respond, new energy signatures appeared on their sensors. Luminant ships were moving to reinforce Sector 7, their crystal technology pulsing with power. Void vessels emerged from dark space nearby, their arrays realigning to support the failing harmonics. They're working together, Chen whispered in amazement. They're actually working together. The combined effort of both fleets stabilized the harmonic network. The dissolution of temporal stasis fields resumed, picking up speed as the process continued. 70%, 85, 93. Chen's voice grew more excited with each update. Field dissolution complete. All temporal stasis fields have been successfully resolved. A cheer went up from the Asteria's crew, but Santos remained focused on her displays. Status of dark matter concentrations. Stable and contained, Patil reported, grinning. The harmonic network is maintaining optimal resonance patterns. We did it, Commander. We actually did it. The main view screen activated, showing both Celestia and Eclipse. The leaders of the former enemy civilizations regarded each other for a moment before turning to face Santos. The Luminant Conclave acknowledges our debt to humanity, Celestia announced, her crystalline form shimmering with what might have been emotion. You have shown us a better path. The Void Hegemony concurs, Eclipse added. Your species has accomplished in months what we could not achieve in 500,000 years. Santos smiled diplomatically. We merely showed you a possibility. You chose to embrace it. The question now is, what will you build with this new understanding? The alien leaders shared another look, and Santos was struck by how natural that interaction now seemed. Just months ago, such a gesture would have been unthinkable. We have already begun discussions, Celestia revealed. The harmonic network you helped us create. It has applications far beyond resolving temporal stasis fields. Our scientists believe it could form the foundation of a new type of faster-than-light travel, Eclipse continued. One based on harmony rather than disruption. We would be honored if humanity would join us in this research. Santos felt a surge of pride, not just in humanity's role in these events, but in the transformation she had witnessed in these ancient civilizations. We would be delighted to continue our cooperation. As the discussion turned to future plans, Santos reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity, barely a spacefaring civilization, had helped end a war that had raged for 500,000 years. Not through superior technology or military might, but through a simple change in perspective, viewing the universe through the lens of harmony rather than conflict. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating the dawn of a new era. 3 civilizations, once strangers and enemies, now stood ready to explore the galaxy together, guided by the universal language of harmony they had discovered. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't a weapon or a revolutionary technology. It was something far simpler and far more powerful. The ability to see music in the chaos, to find harmony in the discord, and to show others that sometimes the most profound changes come not from forcing the universe to bend to our will, but from learning to dance to its rhythm. Commander, Chen called out, interrupting her reverie. We're receiving requests for the harmonic technology from dozens of other civilizations. Word of what we've accomplished here is spreading." Santos smiled. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. "Well then, Lieutenant, let's show them what harmony can do."